Your emergency fund is costing you $47,000. Not because it's the wrong idea, because of how much you're holding and where you're holding it. Bankrate's most recent survey shows the average American keeps $18,000 in a savings account, earning 4.5% annually, according to FDIC rate tracking. That same $18,000 invested in an S&P 500 index fund at its historical 10.3% average annual return, based on data from 1928 through 2024, creates a $47,000 gap over 10 years. Read that again. $47,000 from the same starting money, from one decision about which account to use. You built the fund everyone told you to build. The math says it cost you a small fortune. Federal Reserve consumer finance data confirms the median American holds their emergency fund for 14 years without fully depleting it. 14 years, longer than most people keep the same car, the same job, or live in the same house. But the emergency fund sits, undisturbed, quietly costing them. This is not temporary cash, it is permanent wealth sitting in the wrong place. Vanguard's research on cash drag quantifies what that permanence costs. Households holding excess cash underperform equivalent investors by an average of 1.5 to 2.3 percentage points annually. Compounded over 14 years, that gap doesn't stay small. It becomes a difference between retiring at 62 with options and retiring at 67 without them. Not because of bad investing, because of where the money sat. Here is what makes this uncomfortable. The emergency fund is the one financial decision almost nobody questions. Skip your latte? Debate. Buy versus rent? Debate. Keep 3 to 6 months in cash? Universal agreement. No pushback, no calculation, just consensus. Yet the Journal of Financial Planning's research on household liquidity finds that most Americans hold 2 to 3 times more liquid cash than they have ever needed during an actual emergency. The safety net is real. The size of it is not. Bankrate, the Federal Reserve, Vanguard's portfolio research, and the Journal of Financial Planning all point to the same conclusion. Excess cash is not safety. Above a certain threshold, it is an expensive illusion of safety that quietly erodes the wealth you are working to build. This video shows you the exact opportunity cost calculation across 3 income levels, the psychological reason intelligent people hold far more cash than any emergency has ever required, and the specific framework for protecting yourself from real emergencies while letting the rest compound. By the end, you will know exactly how much your emergency fund should actually be. Let me show you exactly what this is costing you in real numbers. The FDIC reports that the average savings account still pays just 0.46% APY at traditional banks. Even the best high-yield savings accounts top out at 4.5 to 5% in 2024. That sounds reasonable until you compare it against what money actually does when it works. This next comparison is the one that changed how I think about emergency funds entirely. Fidelity's long-term data reveals $10,000 invested in a broad index fund in 1980 was worth $1,070,000 by 2024, enough to retire on from a single decision made before most people rating this were born. The same $10,000 in a savings account? $52,000. The gap is not marginal, it is generational. Now bring that down to your emergency fund specifically. If you earn $75,000 annually and follow the standard 3 to 6 month advice, you are keeping $18,750 liquid. At 4.5% high-yield savings over 10 years, that becomes $29,000. Invested at 10.3%, it becomes $50,300. Stay with me on this. The difference is $21,300 per decade, just from one household following conventional advice. BLS earnings tracking puts the average American working career at 42 years. If that $18,750 sits in savings for even half of that career, the opportunity cost quietly exceeds what most Americans consciously invest in their entire retirement account. Your financial advisor calculates your returns. Almost nobody calculates your drag. 2 psychological forces keep intelligent people holding far more cash than logic requires. The first is loss aversion asymmetry. Research from Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky established that humans feel losses approximately twice as intensely as equivalent gains. When you imagine your car breaking down with no emergency fund, the psychological pain is visceral and immediate. When you imagine $47,000 of foregone compound growth, the feeling is abstract and distant. The brain treats the visible risk as real and the invisible cost as theoretical. Both are equally real. Only one feels that way. The second is safety theater. Findings from the Journal of Consumer Psychology reveal that people derive significant psychological comfort from seeing that large balance in their savings account, comfort that is disproportionate to the actual financial protection the cash provides. Keeping $35,000 in savings when your actual monthly expenses are $4,500 doesn't make you 3 times safer than keeping $13,500, but it feels that way. That feeling has a price tag, and most people have never calculated it. Together, these create what I call the cash comfort trap, the gap between how protected excess cash makes you feel and how much wealth it is quietly preventing you from building. The comfort is real. The cost is invisible. That combination is what makes it so persistent and so expensive. Consider 2 people, same salary, same emergencies, one calculation between them. Mr. Brainy, the conventional saver, and Zara, the optimized saver, both earn $72,000 annually at age 30. Both have $18,000 saved. Both face identical financial lives, same expenses, same income, same goals. Mr. Brainy follows the standard advice. He keeps his full $18,000 in a high-yield savings account at 4.5%. Feels responsible, sleeps well, never touches it. Zara runs the actual numbers. She determines her true monthly essential expenses are $3,800. She keeps $11,400, 3 months of genuine expenses, in liquid savings. She invests the remaining $6,600 in a low-cost S&P 500 index fund. At age 40, both have faced the same financial emergencies: 1 car repair, 1 medical bill, 1 job transition lasting 4 months. Zara used $8,200 of her emergency fund across the decade and rebuilt it each time. Her buffer worked exactly as designed. Remember, this safety net is real. Zara used hers and it worked. The size was just right, not the size everyone told her to keep. But here is what happened to the $6,600 Zara invested instead of holding as excess cash. At 10.3% average annual returns over 10 years, it became $17,800. She put in $6,600. She got back $17,800. Compound growth did the entire rest. Mr. Brainy's $18,000 in high-yield savings became $27,900. His money grew. But Zara's optimized approach, same starting point, same income, same emergencies, produced $6,400 more wealth from one decision made at age 30. Same emergencies, same income, one calculation made the difference. Scale that across 2 decades, and the gap becomes $47,000. And that is not a rounding error. That is a car paid in full, a year of college tuition, a down payment on a rental property. Gone. Not spent, not enjoyed, just quietly surrendered to the wrong account. Now, I want to be completely fair because this argument has a genuinely important other side. If you invested your emergency fund in January 2022, the S&P 500 dropped 19.4% that year. Someone who needed that money during the downturn would have accessed it at a loss, locking in real damage at the worst possible moment. This is why the 3-tier structure exists. Not to eliminate risk, to sequence it correctly. Keep 1 to 2 months of true essential expenses in an FDIC-insured high-yield savings account. That is your firewall, untouchable, immediate. Keep an additional 1 to 2 months equivalent in a money market fund or short-term treasury ETF. That is your second line of defense. 2 days away, still growing above savings rates. Everything above those 2 tiers moves to a taxable brokerage account in a broad index fund. That is your former wealth drain now compounding. This 3-tier structure gives you genuine emergency protection, liquidity within 48 hours for real crises, and stops the silent $47 drain that conventional advice never mentions. The math is settled. The psychology is understood. Now here's the exact framework, simple enough to implement this week. Step 1. Calculate your true essential monthly expenses, not income, not lifestyle spending. Rent or mortgage, utilities, groceries, minimum debt payments, transportation. For most households earning $60,000 to $90,000, this lands between $3,000 and $4,500 monthly. Step 2. Multiply by 2. That is your Tier 1 liquid buffer. Done. Step 3. Multiply your monthly essential expenses by 1. Put that amount in a money market fund or short-term treasury ETF. Tier 2 complete. Step 4. Everything above moves to a taxable brokerage account in a low-cost broad market index fund. Former drag, now working. Now you know exactly why your emergency fund was costing you. And more importantly, you know exactly what to do about it. Most people will finish this video and still not change their emergency fund, not because the math is wrong, because the comfort is real. Now you can choose which one matters more. The emergency fund was never the wrong idea. The version of it most people were sold was.